I tell you what, Don, it worried me a bit as well, just from someone who loves watching the league, who doesn't really have a horse in this race, that we could just see Liverpool running away with it again, because I can see City dropping points as they did last season. Liverpool started strongly. Obviously, we're only 2 games in, but there doesn't feel there has been necessarily a sea of change.
Hold your horses.
No, I know, Steve, but
Hold your horses.
What has changed?
Hold your horses, Danny boy.
What's changed?
Did you watch Liverpool? We've just slaughtered Man City's backline, right?
Yep.
Did you see Liverpool's backline against Leeds United?
Yes. Yeah, of course.
It was absolutely horrendous.
So we're going to say
I think we need to calm down before we start.
But Liverpool have to regress a lot.
Calm down.
I think that's the concern, isn't it? Liverpool have to regress a lot because there isn't anything that I've seen from Manchester City, who have had a bad second half against Wolves, brilliant in the first half, and then a terrible game today against Leicester.
Have you seen Liverpool defending since the start up after the pandemic?
So this is the point, yeah? This is all about regression from Liverpool, not improvement from anyone chasing them.
Well, I mean, it's possible. That's a very negative way of looking at it, but I mean, in fact, and again, how can we say City are regressing? They can't defend. Listen, I don't want to play against Man City anytime, tomorrow or next week or the week after that, because they can cut you open for fun. So nothing's changed at City. They haven't been able to defend for ages. They probably what they need to do, instead of we're killing them for buying centre backs who want to pass it, because that's the way the world is. Every single team's doing it, so City ain't going to change that. Maybe they need to start thinking about what they do in the middle of the park. Instead of having Rodri and Fernandinho, then you do what Klopp does and get some guys in there with some real legs, some real engines, and they can just shut it down and then get it forward to the guys that can cut you open. Maybe that's the change he needs to think about.
18 points, wasn't it, last season, Don, the difference between City and Liverpool?
Listen, I know we're a couple of games in, Dan, but I was on here last week talking about the Wolves game, and the Wolves should have at least drew that game, if not won it. You know, City were awful at the back. And I think Liverpool have strengthened. I think the Thiago signing's going to add an extra dimension to them. I think Fabinho can play easily as a centre-half alongside Van Dijk. It makes them stronger because Joe Gomez is still learning his game.
Don, where do we stand overall where we start questioning Pep at City?
It's difficult. I mean, you've got to question him for the results that you're seeing. He's been brought in to win the Champions League. They lost the league by, as you said, 18 points and were never, ever in it. They didn't even put up a fight last season. But things have to improve. The difficulty is when we talk about Guardiola, and Stevie touches on it there about maybe he's changing the midfield players and shutting the game down in midfield. It's not how he plays. He didn't do that at Bayern. He didn't do that at Barca. He won't do that at Man City. Whenever you see Guardiola get interviewed after a loss, he will tell us we should have scored more goals. That's his mantra. That's his philosophy. It's the way he's going to go about every single game. He ain't going to change. We're just going to have to see which results, negative or positive, comes along for Man City. I'm not sure you can criticise him, even though we're seeing teams, sounds like a contradiction because you're seeing teams like Leicester 5 past them, but they're quite capable of playing someone next week and beating someone 6 or 7.
City fans will shout at me for not bringing up the fact that they've got a long list of injuries, including Jesus and Kun Aguero as well. Does that factor into today's performance at all, Stevie, considering they conceded 5?
Yeah, I think it did. They definitely missed them today going forward. You know, I pointed out that, you know, the only way through was to find holes where there weren't any, because there was no sort of physical presence or anything like that at all in the penalty box. You know, you've got Sterling playing with his back to goal. That's just not his game. So 100% you can understand. Listen, Leicester got 1 shot on goal in the first half. We shouldn't forget. I mean, as far as possession was concerned, they completely dominated it. So, yes, they missed their attacking players that were out. You know, your Bernardo Silvas as well that create. So, yes, you can definitely give them that. But as we've been talking about already, you can't forgive the defence.
Right then, let's move on.
I think the one thing, Dan, you can't criticise Guardiola is giving 3 penalties away in the same game. I mean, that's got nothing to do with the manager.
The Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.